this morning's webinar on conducting a risk assessment in practice. This morning we've got two excellent speakers for you, Dr. John McNamara and Dr. Jarkko Leppälä. We will try to keep on time. I'm sure lots of people have places to go after this webinar, so we will try to keep on time. My name is Pat Griffin. I spent nearly my early years in mining, spent 10 years underground mining, but I also worked as a regulator with the Health and Safety Authority in Ireland for 33 years. And for the last 20 years, I was a head of policy and safety for agriculture. I did work with many of SafeHabitus people with the Securama research group, and that included John and Jarkko. I am now retired, but still remain and working with SafeHabitus in Work Package 2. Next slide, please. This webinar will be recorded. The recording will be available on the SafeHabitus YouTube channel. I would ask you to keep your cameras off during the presentations and your microphone muted. I would ask you to submit any questions for the speakers using the Q&A function on the system. Your questions will be answered during the Q&A session, so use the chat function for comments also. So to start off with, we have Jarkko, and just to give a little bit of background for Jarkko. Jarkko is a research scientist with working with the Finnish Natural Resources Institute, Luka, where he works in the area of risk management. Jarkko is a leader of SafeHabitus Work Package 2, coordinating community of practice. He was project manager for the EU cost action Securama, as I mentioned before, developing strategies to enhance health and safety culture in agriculture. So, as you can see, the outline, Jarkko is first. So, Jarkko, take it away, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Pat. Share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yes,
Perfect.
looks good.
Okay. So, good morning. I'm Jarkko Leppälä from Natural Research Institute, called Luka, and working for SafeHabitus project as a Work Package 2 leader, as Pat said, and also in Work Package 3 concerning agriculture safety and health risk management. And my task is collecting and analyzing the risk management tools on safety and health management on farms. And this presentation highlights these risk management procedure tasks and present a new database of risk management tools. The main reasons behind farm accidents: hurry, haste, and something unforeseen. One farmer in the SafeHabitus workshop in Finland thought that these are behind farm accidents, and I think she pretty well knows what she's talking about. Unforeseen risks, what can we do about them? And I suppose in this case, put light on, and that would be a very good risk management in many times, actually, and you're seeing what you're doing. This was actually already said about what are our work package focus, but anyway, agricultural workers face significant safety and health risks, and basically these agriculture 1.6 accident rate in agriculture is the third biggest injury risk for any occupations, and in fatal injuries, agriculture tend to be first. And I suppose we need to do something about that. In OECD latest report, face these kind of injury causes, and yesterday we had the spread needs of these computer practice networks, what they have found, and this is now for the Eurostat statistics, what we can find about these diseases, injuries in agriculture. We have farm machinery transportation is risky task, as well as you can imagine transferring 500 kilo animals, cows and horses. However, there are certain techniques and technological knowledge to do these activities in safety manner, and also how to use proper personal protection equipments, PPEs. And why these lists and priority needs are good is that if you are a farmer and thinking that your son or your worker orientation, or you are an expert who need to do a course or make a guidebook about these issues, you have here content for the materials. I started collecting these things 20 years ago, and still I'm talking to you here. And this is my daughter there and our horses. Management tool definition is an aid used to complete a management task, simply. And I did a research on management asking, what is the farm manager doing? And made the same question asking for the farmer managers. And for there we got also what kind of tools there are to help farm managers in management. So this was part of my dissertation 10 years ago. Basically, management tasks, planning, analyzing methods, measures, concepts, softwares, instructions, etc. are also tools in risk management. And in this study, we focused on online information systems, helping to identify, document, and manage safety and health risks on a farm. Part of my dissertation, I used risk management procedure from ISO 31000 standard as background model for the tool development. Procedure and process are a little bit different in engineering vocabulary, and okay, they are almost the same, but the process have usually a certain goal, and procedure is more like a pattern step-by-step system, like here. I have wondering this system now over 20 years in different contexts, and would say that in any part of this procedure if is missing in risk management, the procedure is invalid, or the management may have itself certain risks. Many times I see example the first states establishing the context missing, but many times when you adopt risk identification, so risk identification, this context evaluation is also added. But the thing is that if this establishing the context is missing, you might, because when the risk and the world is changing, then the settings and goal in risk assessment should also be a little bit checked and changed. Otherwise, you may may have a very good risk assessment, but you are measuring wrong questions, for example. Other parts in the procedure are in the risk assessment are identification, analysis, how big the risk is, and making prioritization, meaning evaluation. Then we know the major risks and what should be done, and what should do something about risks in. Then the next phase is about what should be done for the risks in risk treatment or handling risks to eliminate risk, decrease risk, substitute risk, or tolerate it. I would say that most of the risks farmers are just tolerating. Okay, they know the risks, and the first step that they know, the first step is that they know and understand the risks, but they might have done nothing for most of the risks. Then the monitoring or following the risks, nothing will be done for the risks if they forgot the monitoring to remind you what should be done. This is the more kind of annoying part for the farmers. For example, if you have an automatic program which are calling you every week that, hey, you haven't done that, but or traditionally it has been a farmer wife who is monitoring things. But if you are owner of the procedure, doing this your own farm, you can always change schedule, means, or a budget. Then other thing, what is missing many times is communication. You have done a very good risk management system so far, but and treated the risks and monitoring plan. But if you forget to tell, for example, your wife or farm worker that the tractor front loader is not working well, so then when they go to fill the silage storage to the barn, they may face some trouble. And you can imagine if the loader scoop or a forklift goes down when there is a 1,000 kilo silage in the scoop, it's the same effect than tractor hit by a giant hammer. And tractor even can fall, or then the farmer can hit the tractor window or do the tractor controls. Actually, 10% of the machinery accidents with tractors are these hittings with the tractor controls. And if there's no cabin in the tractor, it could be end of the story. Actually, in the luckiest case, farmer just get heard about this miscommunication from the wife, and that could be also a very terrible risk, I would say. And this was about that evaluation or risk handling, hierarchy of control of risks. You can eliminate, substitute, use engineering to take out the risks, or information, warnings, administration controls, or personal protection equipments. And basically these, the upper level elimination substitute, they are most effective, and less effective are then in the bottom. And then, of course, the tolerated risk is there in the very, very bottom end. Then about a few words about the risk map, which I have used and made for the establishing the context, kind of. And that was a part of my work 10 years ago in the dissertation. I launched this farm risk map as kind of a early stage vulnerability mapping tool. The idea is to present the holistic one-page map the various risk factors on farms. This holistic picture about the farm manager risk factor have 5 main sections. Outside impacts, then we go inside farm sections as assets, production activities, people, and in the right impacts outside the world like consumers, society, and environment. Plain general system model. Below here, there are control tools for risks. Actually, all farmers have already control tools for risks. Otherwise, they could not do farming very long time. But using the risk management might not be very systematic. And this is why I made this study about systematic risk management on farms. One big part of this picture you can see, but is the people safety and health on farm. But it also associates connections to other farm activities and farm management, because it could be valuable to understand, for example, why I have economy or management problems and why things are so difficult on my farm, and what could be barriers in safety and health management too. I have used this tool many times in farmer and agriculture student education and events in Finland, and have also an online tool for this, but I suppose this service is now closing. Luke saving money and Finnish government, but as it happened 10 years ago, when last time this was closing, then somebody called from ministry, where are those tools? But if you ask most of the farmers, they get quite enough about some kind of first picture about the farm risks. Just watch and associate the farm risks from this whole farm picture. But then you just need also, when you go to further, other analysis tools and identification, more detailed, and then get that proper risk management plan. There are still many things, give ideas to own and kind of to identify these risks to every farmer. But these simpler and easy tools are needed with the farmers. If we go to the development of this farm safety and health risk management database and the background, this is a big part of SafeHabitus project to me, and I have been collecting with Professor Risto Rautien in the database for safety and health risk management tools. And all the tools do somehow help in farmer risk management tasks. All of these tools are doing some sort of risk identification and give some kind of advices for handling the tools. These are the basic tasks, okay? But then always the major issue for the farmers could be also that is somebody monitoring those things, and communication, of course. So doing the whole process is always best in most of the risks. But however, there's always outside risks which can't be avoided. If, for example, meteorite hits to your farm, but I would say that you can always decrease the risks, and that could be a lifesaver in many cases. So, reviewing these risk management tools, we could go to see some of these tools and examples step by step. There's been we had also made an inquiry for our SafeHabitus community of practice, 11 countries, about these tools. So we have some tools, but from EU, but also we have tools from all over the world. And I could probably go there then show we have a kind of a demo version of the tools and the database. If we go to this context and settings, safety policy and context, I think that the background of the farm, what kind of places farm has, workplaces, what activities they do, what are the goals, especially safety goals might be good to remind. We could see, for example, IRIS tools, risk code of safety code of conduct, code of practice, risk assessment. I undertake to provide a safe place of work, use safe systems of work, provide all machinery guards, protective equipment, information, training, and supervision necessary to protect those at risk. Advising stop work immediately until the hazard is controlled. This is an important thing. If you find something which is not right, stop working and find out. That many times may save your life or may save you from the injury. And share this risk assessment. And here we come to the communication. Share this risk assessment document with anybody who is working on the farm. And review, monitor these things in this document on a regular basis and annually. So basically, you can see that this safety policy is kind of following also this risk management standard stages. Then one thing was what was this US Iowa State University's Certified Safe Farm, which I was kind of that it also have statistics and health history, which might also meaningful to ask, because it's part of the safety management that people who have had some injuries or accidents, they are more motivated to do the safety planning, but also that it might have an effect that how the safety management are done on the farm. Then safety and health risk assessment on the farm. The identification tools are mainly the major tools and phase in this risk assessment. There are the format of different kind of tools: checklists, guides, manuals, images, photos, videos, risk matrix. There are already a lot of podcasts, regulation standards, which are working for that we can identify what is the major issues. Identify the risk factor. There are certain kind of questions. There are the types like that. The questions could be only a keyword, but then there could be somewhere kind of information what kind of issues we should notice from this keyword. Or then there are questions which may also offer already a kind of a risk handling tool for the risk factor. And I don't know if we could see from the Certified Safe Farm, one part of the identification list, and I think this was also in this safety code document in Ireland, that here the example of the questions that it's also offering kind of risk handling measure or mean for the issue. Are all chemical containers labeled? Are seals in place over the rotating machinery, and then you can comment it yes, no, easily. So basically this is easy use, and here's also that there's some for example 85 decibel noise, so you might that kind of numbers which are telling you the limits and measurements. These are also you can find from identification lists, for example. Then if we go to the, there's also example of the evaluation, a risk matrix, used to rank in the risks, and I have tested this with the farmers. And this is basically this kind of a simple risk matrix are working quite well, but it needs also these kind of measurements that how can we identify what is the intolerable risk, what is meaningful risk and insignificant risk and or meaningless risk. And there I have had some instructions for the farmers or need to kind of apply version for this tool. And there many times it needs a consultant. Risk handling. So what do we do with the risks? How do we treat them? And making a kind of action plan, development list, for example, Haddon matrix tool. And these there's examples and instructions, risk management measures. They usually have a lot of instructions and what the different there's mean. Naming the risk is actually the biggest issue when you are doing a development plan. But anyway, in the list there are usually work organization, planning, scheduling, budget, start date, end day, person in charge, and additional information, for example, farm safe tool. There's the hand tools here, and you can see some instructions. Select tools that are designed for the task. That's the basic issue in any standard, actually, that the tool is used in the work what it have been designed. So this is an example of these instructions. I don't know how do I have it, how much time. Then monitoring, if monitoring is missing, so I mean, I would say that nothing would be done, but many times there is a risk that nothing will be done, or you forget to do half of the things. Allows you to monitor which measures have been taken, who is responsible, and which tasks are in progress and which are finished. And there I could say that we had also tools from Germany. You can see that here is actually very nice example that there's the person who is responsible for the monitoring and following these assessment. Or actually, it's not working. I need a password. Communication, then areas for development that are not reported to other people. There's always that the risk management remain inadequate. Communication guidelines appeared in the definitions of the farm safety policy. So that's usually there in a safety settings or policy that you have to tell to other people on the farm, employees especially. And it's everyday activity, daily communication. But if you don't have a family workers or other workers, you might still there might be a contractors. There might be other people who are coming to the farm, and you need to communicate with them. Probably I could see some examples from here. Emergency management, for example, that in these emergency situations are very important that you have go through these kind of emergency situations, where to alarm to call, and what you need to know, what is the address you are working, and so on. These are basic issues for each farm who has workers. And what need to tell and know what, where, who. There was a good actually example in Oira. Maybe I could now show it. I remember the password. About this is now for the workers, for example. All groups of workers are informed and trained on occupational risk and prevention measures on a regular basis. So I have done this a little bit to my own farm. Provide information on health and safety for every person working on a farm. So basically, there are very good and detailed instructions in Oira. The thing is that there's quite a lot of these issues, and you can imagine when you show the risk map, farm risk map, that how many issues there are and risks factors on the farm. So that's why these, if you go to these details, they can be very long. But anyway, it's these helping tools give you still proper information to deal with these issues and helping for these working tasks, which I think is valuable. So, but then when you have done this first time, then it comes faster and faster the next time. And then you can actually, in the end, you can see probably that when you see the keyword, you already know that, okay, these issues was from the list, this more detailed list, and you can follow more easily. But it's always difficult to start, I know, but the farmers, they need some help and consultant in the take the first step is always the big part. And for this, we have now the database about these different tools we have collected in the SafeHabitus project, Farm Safety and Health Risk Management Tool database. And here you can see the purpose, background, and methods, how we collected the content. 58 selected from Safety and Health Risk Management Tools. Mela launched 2 days ago a new risk measure tool. So I suppose it's not yet here, but then you can see here the list of these tools in the from the in this kind of order. And there, if you're looking for a safety code document from Ireland, you can find it here. So this is a demo version, so all those, for example, risk type function is probably not yet fully working, but anyway, we are launching this this spring, and then it would be all those functions are going well, I think. But here you can then go to this same document which I just showed you, and there's also emergency tool. So these telephone numbers in each farm and each barn are good to have if you have workers. So, and then risk identification tools, which always help you give a kind of a format for your risk management and risk identification. So these are good tools to use, but like I said, that many farmers, they need some assistance to take the first step. Or where was I? Here. And we made an economic journal article, and basically the conclusion, do I have my time?
You have 3 minutes, Jarkko.
Yeah, well, basically I have here done my slides, and basically this is saying that the systematic risk management give you the kind of a format for the procedure, and in database variable are there kind of risk type and description of the tool, what is the target group, and language also, and the most farmer need facilitator for taking the first step, and okay, further implementation studies are always needed for the tools that we can develop, and also that we can help farmers to take the first step, and using these tools and database in education and advisory. I think that's probably a good thing to have, and I think this is an important issue, this health and safety risk management. It is about the attractiveness of this occupation, and I would say that the future of the farming also. Thank you. And okay, walk, don't run is a good message to everybody. It's also one thing that could protect yourself on the farm work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jarkko, for your presentation. Very detailed, certainly, and it shows a huge amount of work that you've done in relation to identifying all the tools that are out there across the EU and indeed across the world. I don't see many questions coming in. I'll look at that in a minute. A few questions myself for you, Jarkko. You certainly set out that the major list of injuries and illnesses on farms, and you feel that farmers don't do a lot about them. They tolerate the risks, they tolerate them, and they live with them. With all the tools and all the work that has been done to try to provide advice and on risk assessment and management of risk, why do you think there is that lack of movement by farmers generally, and the reason for just tolerating the risk? Why is that?
I think that it's part of the work when I did the farm risk map, that there's always so many other things on a farm. And you can see in the farm maps, there are the asset issues, there are production, and many times farmers, they are kind of stressing the production because they got their money from that. And they don't see many times the consequences of the risks. And how much, well, we have a kind of saying that if you haven't got any injury and you don't know how much it costs, then it's rather difficult to understand it, understand the risk, what it actually is about, and that's why the naming the risk is important, and then understanding the consequences, that you don't walk for a month, for example, and then you have to find somebody who are doing your job during that 1 month.
Yeah.
And they don't think about these consequences enough, I think.
Yeah. So I think a better understanding of the cost involved in having injuries and the cost reduction of being able to do your job yourself. Is it a skills deficit, really, the lack of training?
Yeah. Well, the training, I think it's a key issue, of course, that you can understand the things, what happens and what are the risks. Then training is important that, okay, they know that this is risky, but they forget. Like I said yesterday, that people work at 3 times faster than they learn. So, and they are careless in a way when you're hurry, like there was in the second slide. People are in hurry, and they don't they are not focused enough in that situation when happening. In many activities are happening very fast in this moment. For example, there are bull coming, and so these sudden circumstances or conditions might take that it's difficult to manage or act proper way in those. But all the time, and always when you are thinking about these risks and thinking about what you should do in these situations, it's always risk handling kind of. So it's always keep you or give you some so you are doing faster and do proper activities and proper acting in a safe way in those situations when they come suddenly.
Yeah. Just something that strikes me. You identified something like 54 different tools out there.
58.
58. How many of them were backed up with training on the actual use of the tool?
All of them have a guidance, basically, and risk identification. But that was a good question.
I'm talking about facilitated training. Like, these tools can be very complex for people to actually use.
Yeah.
And I think without some facilitated training by a professional trainer, whether it's online or whether it's in person, which is very expensive, I know, I don't think these tools will be used properly. And if it would be a good exercise to identify how many of these tools had any facilitated training connected with them.
Yeah. Actually, I was looking that, and it's partly seeing our article that basically those which are free, which there's no cost for the farmer, they are probably those ones which are only self-assessed tools. So there is not probably they're not providing consultant.
Yeah.
And those ones where there is some kind of a fees in the article that maybe half of the tools have that it start from the couple €100 to 5,000 euros, for example. They have a consultant service.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing that struck me was whether you had data on the use of these tools. I saw that when you put up the Irish example, there's 90,000 users. which is, pretty impressive, I think, considering there's about 130,000 full-time or farm units, so it's well used. But it'd be nice to see a graph showing the data of use of all these tools. We'll move on now because we're getting tight on time. Thanks, Alan Plum, for putting in a comment there in relation to location for emergency services. There are several systems out there, and the 3-word system is used in Ireland. And actually, Klaus has come in with a question there. Are the experiences in how to train risk competence on farms? And that was connected with the question I asked you there in relation to training for risk management tools. So Jarkko, thank you very much for your presentation, and we'll now move on to our next presentation, which is John McNamara. Doesn't need much of an introduction. I must say I've known John for many, many years. John is leader of SafeHabitus Work Package 3, Risk Management. He has been employed by Teagasc, the Irish Agriculture and Food Training and Advisory Agency, as a senior specialist for health and safety, and was centrally involved in the development of the Irish risk assessment approach on farms. He actually obtained his doctorate for the evaluation of the initial development of the risk assessment tool. So John, interested in hearing your presentation. I hand it over to you now.
Great, Pat. Thank you very much. And thank you, Jarkko, for an excellent presentation, which will support my presentation. Can I inquire, please, can you see my slides?
Yes, we can. Up?
Yes, it's perfect now, yeah.
Yeah, great. And that, what I want to talk about is the development of the Irish risk assessment approach. And as Pat just said, 90,000 farmers, or maybe 80 or 90% of the population, are using the tool, so I want to explain how we got to that position. This has been multi-agency. Pat, as he described, worked for the Health and Safety, which is our leader organisation for health and safety, and a regulator as well. My organisation is Teagasc, which is research, advice and training, and we combined with the HSA to form a joint initiative, managed by Pat and operated by myself. We worked in conjunction with the Farm Safety Partnership, which is an advisory committee to the Health and Safety Authority and to the industry generally, and is made up of farming organisations and government organisations involved in health and safety. And, I'll explain as I go. We have done evaluations, so we linked in with our national university, and we got our evaluations were conducted scientifically. Now, this isn't an Irish farm, and I'm delighted to say that we've made a lot of progress over 30 years and that. But the point I want to make, and I think Jarkko made it as well, farms are very dynamic places. Everything is moving really. People are moving, machinery are moving, livestock are moving, loads are moving. Everything is needed. So risk assessment is needed, in a formal sense, but also in a dynamic sense. Farmers really have to be managing risk all day long. They have to be putting controls in place all the day long. I'd like to emphasize that farmers are predominantly in charge. You have the social ecological model, and they're surrounded by advisors and regulators and government and farmer colleagues in that. But ultimately, it is what the farmer does in a management sense is crucial. Just in Ireland, I think Pat mentioned we have 135 We've over 300,000 at risk. Our average farmer age is 58 at this stage, and farm size is small, 38 hectares and that. Now, we have an increasing cohort of farmers with employees whom I will deal with later. Now, the agenda for my talk, I wanted to tell you about our risk assessment journey, as it were. I want to talk about the legislative developments that went behind it, the organisations involved, I've mentioned those, development of the risk assessment, associated training, and I want to emphasise that, evaluation of the risk assessment, to keep farmers engaged in risk assessment, incentives are needed, I believe, and I want to describe some of those in action in Ireland. And, apart from current developments, I want to deal with some future and ongoing developments also. Right, we'll go back to the start, and we had legislation in 1989, which brought both Pat and myself into health and safety. Before that there was Factory Acts and all that, but there was no omnibus structure. So this legislation covered everyone, including farmers. It implemented also in Ireland or transposed the European Framework Directive 89391 into Irish law, and it required what was described as a health and safety statement, that really is a preventative plan, a management plan as to how you are doing, one is doing health and safety management and organisation. Now, Alan Plum from the UK, who's on the line, will know all about safety statements. I think they were pioneered in England, in the 70s and 60s and 70s. So they had an influence on our approach and on getting a safety statement in place. Now, here is our first go at it, and this was the safety statement, and it's excuse me. We came up with a written document. We had the hazards in one column, then the risk. We got people to assess the risk, high, medium, or low, and then specify controls, and then date completed by. And you'll notice the figures are, shortly after 1991 and that. So this approach basically had difficulties. After about 12 years or thereabouts, there was about a 10% uptake. Now, a self-assessment format was devised around that stage, without writing, and that brought the level of uptake up to 30%. So that showed us, that there were a few challenges in this approach, namely the writing nature of it was one, and the other was assessing risk. Like farmers basically see the high risks and see the current risks. The distinguishing between a low risk and a high risk, was something that was challenging for them. Now, we'll move on, and in 2005, there was an updated act on the 2089 Act, the 2005 Act, and there was a dialogue in the run-up to this that Pat and myself were involved with, and Section 19 and Section 20 were included, which allowed a code of practice to be developed, and a risk assessment associated with the code of practice. And this was allowed for small-scale enterprises with 3 or less employees. And that was just an arbitrary means of distinguishing between smaller enterprises and big industrial and other enterprises, which required a more detailed kind of management system for health and safety. So the point I want to make is that the Act was implemented, as implemented, allowed a code of practice risk assessment approach. Now, there's great work done across the world, and there's a famous researcher in Australia, Niels Gunningham, I should say, and he strongly advocated for this code of practice approach. So we set up a national prevention initiative, the HSA, Teagasc, and the Farm Safety Partnerships. And, I registered with Professor Jim Phelan, who was the dean of our agriculture school, and he gave academic oversight to the research. Right. Now we evaluated, to see what would work. We evaluated 3 approaches. The first approach I've just called a risk assessment check sheet, but really it's a matrix. I think Jarkko showed it, and the document is online. So basically what we did was we examined all the fatal accidents over the previous 10 years, and we posed questions to farmers based on the high risk, on that. Now, the top of the list are physical controls, and then there are safety practices down at the bottom half, reflecting the hierarchy of controls. Now, we made a matrix out of the document so that a farm could include all their machineries or all their buildings or whatever. Now, I'll deal with the risk assessment later, but you can find it online, and there were 12 sections for machinery, for livestock, for buildings, for health, for chemicals, for workshops, and so forth. So we evaluated that approach, and we also evaluated the written format approach that I've described. And we also evaluated a novel safe system of work practice approach, which is a non-written risk assessment, really. It shows a graphic of the scenario, a tractor or a vehicle, and if you have it, you tick one box, a square box, and if it's properly controlled, you tick another, or if it's not controlled, then you deal with it. So we evaluated these 3 documents, and I've given the evaluation there. We went out to 68 farmers in 3 or 4 groups, but we found that let's call it the check sheet approach was the most helpful. That's what farmers reported to us. It got a score of 2.3 out of 3. The other ones got 2 and 1.7 respectively. And then easiest completed was also the best. And the written format came second, and the safe system of work came third. So on that basis, we selected the risk assessment for development of the safety of our risk assessment document. Now, I would mention that all this evaluation was done at training, and done in conjunction with training, which is a bit different from just doing it independently of training. Right, here is the original pack of the health and safety, that we produced, the code of practice, the risk assessment document, the safe system of work plan, and a whole video series. Our plan was to roll that out with training, half-day training, and that. But the minister decided that it was a very good document, and to produce the funds, and a copy of it was sent out to every farm in the country at that time. Now, the current document is green, and it's been updated at the moment. It's updated every number of years, and I want to deal with that. But really it transposes the law into action. You know, it's got kind of key data, you know, a small amount of writing, you know, good, you know, the pie charts on accident causation, good pictures. So the idea of it is to get farmers into the idea of what they need to do themselves on their own farms. Sorry. Now, as I've already described, you have the risk assessment, and as I said, there's the book is made up of pages with 12 of these pages in it, along with a page or two of descriptive material. Now, a crucial part of the document is an action list. You know, farmers, if they put an X that they haven't got a control in place, they transfer it to the farm safety action page, and they're then obliged to take action and to sign off or initial it when they have it done. I'll come back to that a little bit later. Now, the assessment of our document was very good. You know, out of a score, I've just put up all the scores there. But, you know, and this is both the training, half-day training, and the document. You know, just the key scores: farmers, very positive to safety, got a score of 4.8. Worthwhile to offer the course training to all farmers, 4.7. My attendance was worthwhile, 4.5, and also motivated me to take measures, 4.5s. So that was the aspiration of farmers as they left the course. Now, as we now know from further research and that, you know, farmers, the intention to actually doing GAP is a huge aspect in voluntary uptake, and you know, we got good uptake, but you know, there's still a lot more to be done in that area. Now, the training approach, now we got people in for maybe half a day, 3.5 hours, you know, and our purpose was to make sure that they knew how to complete the risk assessment and that they knew what standards were required in a practical sense. And we emphasised that each farmer apply the document to their own individual farms. Now, this is in a hotel, but you know, we have offices around the country where we held courses. We got accident victims to speak about accidents. You know, I take the point that Jarkko made. If you haven't experienced an accident, you know, you mightn't appreciate it. So we got farmers to speak about their accidents, or if farmers didn't speak, we had a very good video of that. And indeed, you know, the HSA have made a very good survivor stories series of videos on that. So we wish to get dialogue between our tutors who are advisors, trained advisors, and farmers around risk assessment for a 3.5 day, for a 3.5 hour session. Now, the early courses were people that came forward for training, and you know, I would say they were the early adopters. But you know, we're at it for 20 years, and we've got a lot more later adopters, you know, to do training as of now. Now, there was 119 controls listed in the original risk assessment document, and you know, farmers put you know, on average, you know, at training about you know, they mentioned 3.5 controls to do, and with no training 1.5. So people who attended training who you know, put down more. Now, it's only a small number compared to the overall number of controls in the document. I'd like to point that out. But people who attended training put down 70% more controls to do than the people that didn't attend training. So that's the point of that slide. Now, we got a clear view into the farmer's mindset, from what the documents were completed, and really they went for physical controls, which is good news. They went for fixing tractors, fixing buildings and machinery, putting in livestock facilities, electricity, that sort of thing. Practices, very, very few were identified in the controls. For example, children and older farmers, at 1.4%. Health issues were low as well, at 8.9. So that gave us an insight into what farmers were strong at and what farmers were weak at, and we've built on that in the meantime. So, in summary, the risk assessment document, it's used nationally now for education and for training. It's required for food assurance in order to get a grant for development, from our Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. Farmers are obliged to have attended training within the last 5 years, So the late adopters, they apply for their grant, they realise they have to do training, they come in, they're a little bit cross that they have to do training to finalise their grant application, but our tutors are there to give them a 3.5-hour course and to kind of motivate them, if you like, to think positively about safety on the one hand and fill in the document on the other hand. So I think that's a really positive development. Now, the focus of the document covers the whole range of farm risks. Like the HSA didn't want 6 documents or 10, we have one document. It's used for all farms across the country, so it cuts down on any confusion or difficulties around that. Approach has been evaluated. We've published the findings, and I'll show the paper in a few minutes. Now, 45% of farmers or thereabouts, completed the actions they had taken. Now, we know that because two of us, Pat Griffin and myself, or 2 colleagues, we visited 98 farms, and we looked at the document and we looked at the farms and we saw what adoption was going on. So basically, what we found was that the farmers with good managerial ability completed the document and implemented the controls they said, and that was a key indicator. If a person put down a short list or a long list of controls to be implemented, and when we arrived, sometime 6 months or a year later, and found that the controls were done, then that was a very positive sign. And we also found that those farmers had done a lot more, and namely that they were managing safety dynamically on a daily basis and were implementing controls. Now, the people who did not implement the controls, firstly, they knew what to do because they'd identified them themselves, but they hadn't implemented. So it showed, let's call it, a certain managerial deficiency towards health and safety, and that. So roughly a little over half the farmers were like that. So we've concentrated on that in the meantime and tried to assist farmers, and that fits in with extension theory. The good will get better very quickly and move on, whereas the later adopters need a lot more work and adopt at a much lower stage. So as I said there, it works. The document works with people who have satisfactory management capacity, and it works most effectively with with training. And as Pat has said, about 80% plus of Irish farmers have completed the document at this stage, and we're still working on it. Now, as you can see, we've published a paper there, which is freely available publicly. It's publicly available on all our findings around the risk assessment document. I've just highlighted a number of the key ones here, and indeed my own PhD study is online as well. If anyone wants to see any of the information that we have, and dare I say it, we continue to implement it, and we continue to do research. And I do believe that more research on, use of risk assessments and implementation and crossing the intention to action valley of death, as it were, that a lot more research is going on and needs to go on in that area, especially with farmers who are kind of managerially challenged. Now, moving on, we have our dairy farming has increased a fair bit since quotas were removed, and there are farms out there with 4+ employees and that. So the Health and Safety Authority have produced a new tool. It's online, and it's called Be Smart, and it has its own website. It's besmart.ie is where you will find it. And basically I will show a version of it, but it basically follows the same model as the risk assessment. It puts a question to a person. This is the page on it on fatigue policy. It asks the question, yes, no, and if the answer is yes, that's fine. But if the answer is no, it kind of, the computer system puts people towards the documents and the information they need to implement the adequate controls. So this mirrors the EU OSHA ORIA document and that. Now, as this document is for farms with with levels of staff, and any farm, any farm can use it, but particularly farms with staff, it emphasises strongly staff consultation also in the document. So let's call it relative success, key requirements for success. No, we had a legislative framework to get the risk assessment in place. It was based on legislation. No, we had a partnership approach. We had a practical approach related to the risk assessment document, and we also have a video series to go with it, and we updated that in the last year or so. I'll give a connection for that in a second. But we're trying to get into the farmer's mindset, and we're trying to do what Jarkko advocates. We're trying to make more room in their headspace for kind of formal management of health and safety and dynamic management of safety. No, there are incentives, are nudges there to get engagement with the document. Notably, you need it for food assurance schemes, which lead to, kind of better prices, and it's needed to gain state grants. And there are trained staff, very enthusiastic and trained staff out there, available to support farmers and motivate farmers to adopt a risk assessment approach. And I'll finish there, with some references to, they'll be on the webinar there, but basically you'll find them at hsa.ie, and the videos that go with them are available on the Teagasc website. They're called, they're called Health and Safety Management. We'll get them for you. And the Be Smart tools, there's a www.besmart.ie. Maybe the last point I'd make is that the risk assessment goes with other advisory approaches. We use discussion groups and we hold events and we hold open days, and we're always promoting the same broad approach based on the risk assessment. Now I leave it at that, Pat, and I'll hand back to you.
Thank you very much, John, and you're bang on time. Excellent, and thank you for that excellent presentation on the Irish approach. It certainly brought back a lot of memories for me in relation to where all this came from and how it was implemented. And it was good to see that you referred back to the legislation. It was legislation that led to what we did, and I think there's a message in that policy must lead. Things don't happen out in a vacuum. There has to be some policy approach to actually have this happen. I'd ask people to put any questions in the chat, but I don't want an avalanche. I'm not very good at multitasking. So thanks very much for your presentation, and it brought back a lot of things to me. I can remember as an inspector doing inspections on farms and asking farmers had they got a risk assessment or a safety statement, and they looked very blankly at me, wondering what the hell is this guy on about. And this was maybe 30 years ago. So I actually have a confession to make as an inspector and as a safety professional. I don't like risk assessment because I think it often becomes the job and not the solution. And I've seen many risk assessments done in many sectors that were very good but kept in a drawer and never used. So I think we have to make sure that we actually focus on risk management rather than risk assessment. But that's my view. You said something very important there earlier, John, that risk assessment, there's two approaches really. There's formalized risk assessment, and then there's dynamic risk assessment. And I think formalized risk assessment without dynamic risk assessment is a waste of time. You must have people trained and competent enough to actually do a dynamic evaluation of what they face at a particular moment in time, which is obviously supported by formal risk assessment that they've done previously. You can't do dynamic risk assessment unless you've done the formal prior to that. So I just pose one question to you, John. Given that where we've come from and all the work we've done and all the evaluation and the training, and I think we have succeeded in to some extent, and there is a lot of use, and it is connected with grants, and it's also connected with our food assurance schemes. And farmers seem to know about the risk assessment, the code of practice, and I think they actually use it. But where to next? What is the next step? Where is the next golden nugget to actually move it on to even better use?
No, that's a very good question, Pat. But maybe could I just go back a step first and talk about formalized. I think it's really great that we can get farmers in for a half a day and sit them down and discuss risk assessment for them. I think what the risk assessment does is it gives them a picture of what they need to do, in a practical sense to do risk assessment. And really, they'll do that maybe once a year. They'll update their risk assessment. Now, what the risk assessment does is it gives them a breath. There were lots of areas in their minds they weren't thinking about, the most obvious one being health, and that. And I think that gives them a kind of a platform to do dynamic risk assessment as they go about their work. That health and safety, is in their mind in a practical sense, and it triggers dynamic risk assessment. That's it. No, I agree with you that, risk assessment and risk management, the risk assessment is just a tool. It's a means to an end, but it is a necessary tool. Now, where next? I think, the developments of the risk is of the Be Smart tools, I think is useful, especially for larger farms. But I think where where I've seen farmers who are managerially challenged become good and competent farmers is in the area of discussion groups, where where a group of farmers meet and they they discuss their farm management issues. So I would think that is the best step to gain adoption. Where maybe you include health and safety for 20 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever time they have available. A lady did a doctorate with us, Tracy O'Connor, as a follow-up to my PhD, and she found that farmers welcome a regular short health and safety intervention. Sorry, and farmers bouncing off each other in a practical sense. I think that's the way to gain adoption.
Yeah. And I have a comment here from Martina. Hi, Martina. Long time no hear and no see, but she refers to the MSD risk assessment tool, where key items methods often give a good idea how to lower the risk as you go through it, which is great. And yes, I absolutely agree with you, Martina. And Alan Plum puts in a question there: how do we encourage farmers to come in and do the half-day training? But I would say, Alan, the Teagasc have a very good working relationship with farmers, and long may it last. And these Teagasc advisors will encourage their farm clients to do the half-day training course. But I think the more obvious reason why they come is that for grant schemes in Ireland, the Minister and the Department of Agriculture have specified that they must do the half-day training for the Code of Practice to apply for their grant aid. Also, the Board BIA, which is a food assurance scheme, they have also required to have sight of a completed risk assessment to pass a farmer in relation to his food quality assurance. So those two things combined have actually been very, very useful in driving the level of engagement with the risk assessment document. And just to sum up, and I know we're getting very close to the end. We have a few minutes, but very close to the end. Just before I started this seminar, I was just reflecting on risk assessment, and I would have thought maybe the first risk assessment ever done, can anyone tell me? It's probably Adam and Eve, and that didn't go too well. But if you're not a believer, maybe the first early risk assessment were Stone Age men hunting for meat, and where they charged the woolly mammoths over the cliff to get food, and that certainly was a good risk assessment, and it worked. If we look at modern risk assessments that may have worked, the successful risk assessments that were done to release the Chilean miners from their entombment in Chile, where they built a mechanism and rescued all miners from underground cave. One that maybe didn't go fully to what they expected was the Thai soccer team that were entrapped in a cave when it became flooded. That was very successful, but unfortunately one diver lost his life in that rescue. A modern absolute disastrous risk assessment, it's a book I'm reading at the moment called Challenger, where the Challenger rocket, the booster rocket on the Challenger NASA rocket, the O-rings failed, and the loss of the whole crew on the Challenger spaceship. So, I mean, risk assessment is only as good as its implementation. Risk assessment can be very complex, and Jarkko referred to matrices used where frequency, severity, and probability are all calculated to give you a risk number, which will tell you whether the risk is high, medium, or low. I absolutely hate those systems. They are only appropriate in very complex industrial settings. They are not suitable at all for farming settings. I really think to apply industrial risk assessment to family farms is not practical. We have to be more practical, and that's the route that I think we need to take with all these tools that have been reviewed by this webinar. In relation to going to the future, we have to be practical about things, and I think the future is in this. Every farmer in the world, I think, nearly has a smartphone now. And I think if they have done formal risk assessment training, and when they go to the dynamic setting, if they come across a problem and they want to get a quick risk assessment, I think the solution is that they may pick up their phone and put in a request for a risk assessment on a specific thing. For example, a farmer goes out in the morning and finds that there's a hole in a roof and there's water coming in. You know, is he going to go back to his office or go back and look at his risk assessment, his paper version? He's not. I think he has it in his hand. His phone is there. Get in and click on doing what the risks are in relation to working at height. And that will give him a list of things that he really needs to think about. The fragility of the material that's on the roof already, whether it's weight bearing, the equipment he needs, is he competent to do it? And I think that's where the future is in relation to risk assessment. I'll just leave. I think John is gagging there to come back to me on something. Are you, John?
No, I'm in agreement with you, you know, and the lady, Dr. Caroline Scott got her PhD there last year, and some of her work was in that area. No, I think, you know, before a farmer gets stuck into anything, like they should stop and think, and you know, then what do I need? And you know, if they have a mobile, as you say, and you know, if you know, and they're looking for a risk assessment on that, you know, I think that is a very good idea, you know, and it's worth consideration and for development. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we're bang on time. I'd like to thank our two excellent speakers. Thank you, Jarkko, for bringing us through all the various tools that now exist across our countries. There are many of them, 58. I was really surprised to see how many. I think we need data on how training is provided for them. We need data on their use, how many people are actually using them. And we really need to think, what are the next steps to make sure that farmers have ease of access to preventative measures, things that will actually protect them on the ground, because we all really, really want to stop injury and ill health across our farms. Farmers in Europe, whether you're in the dry climates of the Med, or if you're in the snowy areas of the Nordic countries, or the wet regions at the moment of Ireland and England and these islands, we are all faced with challenges, and farming is getting more difficult every day. We need to make risk assessment easy and accessible and practical. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending today, and I've called the meeting to a close. And thank you to both our speakers. We have one message from our coordinator about an upcoming event that she will now share. But thank you very much for your attention. You're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat, and thank you for everyone that joined the webinar today. I wanted to point out that, continuing on the theme of safety management on farms, On the 19th of March, we have a policy workshop on the role of digitalization and new technologies to improve farm safety management. It's on the 19th of March. The registrations are open, and you can find the link in the chat. So I hope we will also see you all there. And thank you all again for joining all these webinars during this week. I hope they were very informative for you. And the recordings of all the webinars will be available on our YouTube channel next week. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do you want to stay on, John? No, gone.